500. Now, $1. No, $1 was 56, right?
546 or 547.
No, $1 was 56 kobo.
Right, today it was like $1,000 equivalent to like 500 something naira.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which is 56.
$1
Yeah.
is 540 something.
Yeah, sure. So $1 then was like about 56 kobo. Because 1,000, that's about 56 kobo. So now $1 is 570. And just last week, the CBN also still injected additional, saving guard to not to allow the naira to crash. Those of us who buy and sell, building materials, bag of rice. I asked somebody to buy me a bag of rice. She called me, said, "Sir, the bag of rice is this. Bag of rice that was 4,000, 5,000 is now selling for 35,000. Those are the implications that we are seeing. And and the country needs to understand that we cannot, I have on page 18, which I try to track for us. You can see the ADI comparison between Ghana and Nigeria. Ghana is moving away to a developed economy. So the question I ask myself is, where is the borrowing going into that we are not able to develop, and yet we are collecting more and more? Now, figure 10, if you have it, you see our unemployment. Now there is this discussion, and somebody argued it in terms of unemployment, that if the government gives 5,000 naira to 100 million Nigerians, 5,000 naira presently is about $10, right? $10. Okay, so the minimum ADI, poverty is 1.92. So $1.9. So the government is planning to move 100 million out of poverty by handing 5,000 and 10,000 naira to each person. And so the equation comes, when you give them the money, what can they do with it? Oh, no, we are giving them the money so that they will be above $1.9 per day poverty line. So we have moved 100 million out of poverty. But look at figure 10, you see unemployment growing with increasing debt. So the question is, what actually is the debt doing? That unemployment is growing, debt is growing, everything is growing. The only thing that is not growing is well-being. Figure 11 page, page 19, you see our inflation trends. Nothing, I captured here something I need to show us. Multidimensional poverty measures, that's 1,005. About 2,000.
1,000.
No, let's say 2,000 naira. So, no, we're not. We're still in 200. We're still in 200. $3.2, which is 1,700 naira a day, which is 720,000 a year. What do you use to feed? What do you use to go to hospital? What do you use to pay school fees? What do you use to pay transport? What do you use to
infrastructure facilities?
No, sure. What do you use to pay NEPA bill? These are 3.2, not 1.9. But the government is trying to solve poverty at 1.9 by giving out handouts to 100 million people to bring them out of poverty. But I ask myself, how can you bring people out of poverty by giving them money? The money will get to them. Now, we are going to take our subsidy. One of the things that the World Bank, which we are going to look at, strategies and policy directions for managing Nigerian rising debt profile. One of the recommendations is that take out subsidy. Fine. The government said by February next year, they'll take out subsidy. And if you take out subsidy, they want to give 5,000 naira to 40 million Nigerians, and for 2022 alone, it's going to be almost about 2.3 trillion. And then somebody asks, if you give people 5,000 naira, how are you going to fund it when you're already running a deficit? So that is still going to borrow to give to the 40 million Nigerians.
Then how did that money go to
It doesn't even go to them. The one don't even go to the actual the 40
No.
million.
Now, no, they are removing. No, let's take it as they will. No, sometimes believe them, they will.
No, because doctor sir, sometimes you look at the history, the historical performance of most of those ones. CBN is spending a lot of billions of naira, taking that they are either in terms of agricultural facility to the less privileged in the community, or go to the community, doesn't go to them. You still go around with this of people.
No. Let's say the way, because I tell you why they will do this. Because they need to do it to win the election.
But I saw it. I saw part of it yesterday.
no go to the poor 40,000 Nigerian poor people?
No, don't let's say
The
that.
realistic side.
No, one doctor is saying that assume just in the economy, all things being equal, the money
See, let's assume that they will do it. First of all, consider that they will do it. That they are going to give 5,000 naira to 40 million Nigerians. They call it transportation subsidy. That the people are going to. So the question is, how are you going to? My worry is this: where are you going to get that money? Excellent. We are still going to borrow to do that.
It's high time for us in Nigeria, you understand, to go with any outdated policy that will favor Nigerians.
Okay, I hear you. But it's not about policy issue, it's about politics.
You see, politics are politicizing their own, to suit their own favor of doing politics.
Okay, fine, I agree with you. You cannot take away
Sir,
politics.
and then, our economy is deteriorating every day and night. So we can't keep our eye looking.
Okay, you are a member of ISEC.
Yes.
I like your anger. That is why ISEC is here. You know, I did this detailed paper because, and I'm talking just over it because I really want people to read it. Because until you come to this nitty-gritty, you will not be angry as you are. You understand? We are not saying you should be angry and protest on the streets, but ISEC can be so angry that we can protest with our pen, with our publication, with our communicate, with summit and all that. Because until you know this, because when they bring out some of these things, people don't sit back and watch. Hey, Nigeria, we are borrowing this money, unemployment is increasing, security is deteriorating. You know, the other time we are talking about kidnapping rates per GDP. It has become an econometric input into Nigeria now. Kidnapping rate has entered into modern. So all these things are deteriorating, yet your debt is increasing. And then you are now going to say, okay, you don't want to do subsidy because all the argument is that subsidy is for the rich and not for the poor. So World Bank, which is what you have on page 19, the World Bank in a November report, just recent report that they published, on Nigeria, gave a lot of guidelines that, listen, for Nigeria to move forward, they have to remove subsidy. Now, it also shows us that, it also reported that Nigeria has the worst revenue to GDP ratio among 150. No, these are the things people like us and us, ISEC, should be worried about. That this is a World Bank report on Nigeria, just this November. And, that is why, like I said, I need to put a lot of this into so that we see what is happening to us. That even we are worse than Haiti. Do you know Haiti? No more subsidy, but we have another plan. As we take subsidy out with the left hand, we want to borrow again and continue what we are doing with the subsidy. Because the subsidy actually, those of us in the oil industry, we know how the subsidy works. There was a time people don't even import, you understand? There was a time there was no physical product, you understand? There was a time the product was 10 liters, but it is 100 liters. So all of those are the things I say, take it out. It's not benefiting. The subsidy you are giving it to the rich and not to the poor. So take it out. Now if you take it out, you want to now go to the right hand again and borrow money and dash money to people that will not impact. What is 5,000 naira in Nigeria present economy?
It's nothing.
What will 5,000 naira do? And the total is about 2.3 trillion naira will be spent to push the labor union back, and labor union people even have protested. You can't do that. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. The World Bank also recommended a government tax, what they call sin goods. Well, I don't know what they call sin goods, but it said any goods that the rich. They call it the cigarette, alcohol, all those things that the rich can afford, put more tax on it. So that, you know, you collect more money. So anybody that wants to buy cigar, the fact that he wants to buy cigarette, and I think I agree with them on that. You know, professors are here, they know sin, but this is the first time I'm hearing sin goods, not luxury goods.
They're not people are being the best.
No. World Bank is defining another kind of good called sin goods. What we grew up in the economy are luxury goods, but they are saying that these sin goods, they are killing people, they are causing problems, medical, they make you to spend more money on medical, they make you to have society problems, security problems, so put more tax on it. So that people will, if people want to really do it, they have to pay for it. And in some respect, I agree with it. That sin goods, it also strongly recommended that the government must stop overdrafts. The government, because the CBN and the federal government are in one house. Once they need money, they go and they collect the money. The CBN is saying, the World Bank is saying, stop that. Stop that. Because if you continue to go to the CBN and get overdraft to fund something that has no impact in the economy, you will be heaping up, In addition to the World Bank, another group of, recommended. That is the Griffith Group. This is a global, group that studies debt for low-income countries, and they came up with a recommendation. And let me just go through one of their recommendations, that they recommended. One is that we must look at debt in its opportunity. Careful selection of the careful understanding of the cost. That is why this non-interest that Prof is promoting is one of the recommendations. That, listen, why don't you go for non-interest debt? Why do you go for high interest debt? What do you gain? Why don't you start? Because the world has a large pool of non-interest debt. Why don't we go and reduce our debt? Why don't you convert our interest debt to non-interest debt? But more importantly, one of the things that you also recommended, flexible debt contracts. What they're saying is this: in your contract that you're signing with your creditors, put in a clause that will enable you, in case you are defaulting, in case you are not able to pay, in case there will be crisis, suspend it, then come back, especially for low-income countries, so that there is an, they call it standstill clause. Then the IMF, through one of their senior directors, Akura, suggested mobilizing finance through other means. And some of them that I've mentioned, let me see, just pick. One of them that they recommend is that number one is, sorry, I'm coming, I just need to read it correctly. New borrowing should be consistent with fiscal spending and deficit plan. And such new borrowing must guarantee debt sustainability. Now, this is where I bring ICEN into the picture, because if ICEN stays back and don't push it and don't make noise, Nigeria will continue to borrow under a very terrible state. Countries must evaluate the returns from investing the borrowed funds to the overall cost of accumulating the debt. Now, this is projects. If we are collecting money, take for instance, though it's still not working well, I did a study on railway transportation in one of my projects, and I took the railway of Kaduna to Abuja, and then the railway in Kenya. I'm in Ethiopia, and they are literally almost about the same, but the cost was almost double. So, so that is a social good. We are doing a railway, but unfortunately, the money you are borrowing, you are not really distilling the cost of that. You are not benchmarking the cost. So when you want to do a railway of $3 billion, $4 billion, you have put the railway, but that same railway is probably $500 million in the same African country. So some of these things, Prof, I don't know how ICEN will play a role, but it's important that ICEN starts speaking like NBA, Nigerian Bar Association. Today, Nigerian Bar Association is so powerful, they can challenge anybody on the legal ground. And I think it's time ICEN also begin to challenge everybody on economic ground. If we have enough brain, we have enough people, if we cannot start, number 3, there must be transparent debt reporting and debt statistics, which is where Nigeria is lacking. In context of comprehensive medium-term debt management strategy, debt statistics should include coverage of publicly guaranteed debt. Now, this is what we call publicly guaranteed debt. That is broad as possible, including debt to state-owned enterprises. The debt that an NPC, all of these organizations are collecting, finally is a Nigerian debt. I've spoken about the issue of a debt restructuring. That our economist, we know him, Ayo Terry. Now, asset link is this. You have some assets that are foreign. You want to use it for collateral. You want to use any major Nigerian asset. With our debt mismanagement, those assets will be taken away. So while I agree that in order to reduce, the only thing I agree is this: there should be equity structure. Instead of just taking the asset as a collateral, the new debt structure must bring in equity. The borrower must be part of the joint venture in the project. So there is not just borrowing, it is part of the structure, and it's going to be part of the revenue, and it's going to be part of the regulation, that. Finally, one of the cost solutions to reducing debt is for the government to cut down its cost of running government. But this is where I'm reading page 21. Nigeria runs one of the most expensive government structure globally, spending more than 70% of its budget on recurrent expenditure and less than 5% of capital. Most of the recurrent expenditure funds the legislatures and everybody. Here you will see comparison of other, developed economies, how much they spend on their government, how much they pay to their people, how much. But Nigeria, that is heavily in debt, is paying far more than America, than Canada, than every other person. So why should we continue to borrow to pay government officers? And so there has been a lot of recommendations of cutting down. As one of the strategies of managing the increasing debt burden, the federal government said they want to implement and the committee which was constituted in 2011 submitted its report that the report recommended that of the 540 statutory and non-statutory federal agencies, it should be cut down. Politicians, agencies, reduce assistance, reduce, because these are the people that are actually taking 70% of the money we are borrowing that is not going into development. That managed sustainably have been shown to boost economic growth and development, especially for developing economies. Unfortunately, Nigeria increasing debt profile has not been managed efficiently and transparently to produce the desired economic benefit. But rather, as noted in this paper, the country may be treading towards a threshold of debt constantly using more than 90% of its revenue to service the debt, which the paper noted has pushed the country into debt distress, macroeconomic challenges, financial and currency crisis, high unemployment, extreme poverty of near, and finally ensure transparent and ensuring public parliamentary creditor scrutiny. This is one area that we now said, I send this to the part of the scrutiny group. I send this to be involved in how much debt we take and how we spend the money. And I mean, we are so strong that we can do that. If we don't do that, by 2022, when they are going to do election, we should be rest assured that our debt will cross the 100 billion. And the government will be so busy trying to win another election. If you are not careful, unemployment might be 40–50%. If you are also not careful, security will be off the cliff. And I believe that we have a duty to this country. We have a duty to the survival of this country as a professional group, as economists, that my submission is that we need to take the bull by the horn and confront all the tiers of government in managing our debt. Thank you very much.
Please, once again, let us give you a round of applause. Thank you very much, Dr. Felix, for that brilliant paper presentation on the economic implication of high debt profile to a developing nation, Nigeria. Focus. We all heard him, and I believe we follow the trend of that paper presentation. And we may have one or two things to add to it or question, but that will come after the second program. We only have two papers today, so the third one is going to be another kind of a discussion among you professionals that are here today. So I will quickly invite to the podium for the second paper. Because of time, we want to be conscious. This paper is titled Creating Job Opportunities While Servicing the National Debt by Dr. Kenny Oteji. Please, let's give him a round of applause.
Adopting the protocol right on start. I say good morning, sirs. The high table are my dear doctors and friends. Report that the unemployment will weaken the economy of this country if government do not see reasons to solve this problem. That's why I said here, this has prolonged the labor market slump in many countries, lowering job creation and increasing what? Unemployment duration. As such, the world's unemployment rate and the number of the unemployed worldwide is projected to continue to. And presently today, as of January, the unemployment in Nigeria was 33.3. Based on what the Bureau of Statistics gave out. As at yesterday, it's now 40.5%. Where are we? And what do we want to do? What is this, sir? The result of this is the skill acquisition program, which needs to be embedded in the system. And the government needs to encourage everybody. Look at this. How do we tackle unemployment? And the The way you can only tackle unemployment is by doing what? Job creation is essential for achieving poverty what? Reduction. Nigerians are so talented, but our government has made most Nigerians a waste product. I will show a video here. You may not see it in the picture. I said it is unlikely for any government to create jobs for the 220 million jobless Africans. Nigeria what? Inclusive. As such, people have to become what? Job creators. How do you become a job creator? There was a research I carried out. From the crude oil, we have over 100 byproducts. Am I right, sir? And these byproducts are being used to produce what? Polish. Our clothes, the air, the perfume, and a lot of others. But if you go to, maybe my guy will quote me wrong. There was a man I took to NNPC. We wanted to buy byproduct. He said, you have to go and see so person and so. You cannot just come here. I will not mention the person they said we should go and meet. When we got there, do you want to partner or you want to buy the products? The man said, I want to buy the products. I said, no. Our products are being refined outside what? The country. And this over there, they will not release the byproduct. Sir, do they release it? You are smiling. How then will our government create jobs? This byproduct can also be used to create jobs in this country. We are coming there. Look at here. Instead of our government creating jobs, though the first facilitator has spoken, look at where they are putting the money. Inside what? And not inside what? Here is what? A waste of what? Resources. I carried out a research in Togo last year, but I was warned not to publish it. Do you believe the Togolese government have companies that they control? And this prevents leakages of taxes. The beer industry in Togo and some other industry is being established and controlled by the government. From there, they were able to know the number of employees in this country, in this establishment. When Nigeria had NEPA and many industries, the cement industry in the 10 Bedell today is no more. The Bedell State cement industry, is it still existing? As at then, government was able to control, monitor the rate of unemployed in the state and in the country. But today, no. This is where they are pumping their money, inside the baskets. Where government is able to create employment, this is where we should be. We will be able to prevent what? Leakages. And we'll be able to know the number of employed youths in the country. There was a paper I took to National Assembly some years ago. I first of all published it as an article, international paper. I said, job security. I said, in Nigeria, there was no any what? Job security. But if government is able to provide job, like it's being done outside the country, they will know the number of birth rates in the country, mortality rates. Secondly, the number of youths that are just graduated. When Donald was in Nigeria, and some other companies, before you even graduate out of school, the day of your graduation, the moment it is 2-1 or 2-2, you are short of what? But today, if government creates these jobs, we can use the taxes being paid to service our what? Our national debts. Therefore, it is a two-way scenario. Who is an entrepreneur? We say entrepreneurs are simply those who understand that there is little difference between what? Obstacle and what? Opportunities. And are able to turn both into what? Into their advantage. That is an entrepreneur. And as at 2012, the federal government promoted all the marketers, the traders. They were giving what? 30,000 naira. Is it the right time to give 30,000 naira? You need to first educate people. Thank God I'm involved in this side program nationwide. I just finished one on Tuesday this week. I just said it. You need to sensitize the people. Not by giving them what?
Okay, Dr. Sir, to ask a question.
Okay.
Which of the government agencies is responsible in doing that?
No.
No.
Yes.
And in that agency, maybe it's under a minister. They have the DG and every other people.
Yes.
And they have people like me as their staff who may be responsible to be sent or posted to communities to go and educate people. Do those people go there? It's also part of the problem. But sometimes, most of the time, when we talk, I'm not citing that maybe Nigerian leaders, all of us in Nigeria, because sometimes ordinary staff in the ministry send it to go and do something, he will betray. Send it to go and teach his fellow poor man how to do something, maybe giving in lieu to go there. He will not. And that is why most of the time, when people think that government, well, who is that one? You can't single hand somebody in Nigeria and say it's the government. All of us are government.
We need to change our mindset.
Exactly.
The problem we are having in Nigeria, we have three arms of the government: the executive, the legislature, and jurisdiction. The legislature arm and the jurisdiction are not doing their job. This is where the problem we have in Nigeria. When this regime came, Buhari regime, he sent a committee that they are going to retrieve some certain money that was abroad from the Nigerian government. They should retrieve all this money back. We had from him, some of the money have been retrieved back to the Niger State government, to the federation account. What do they do with that money? We don't know. The jurisdiction are there to interpret the law, but they refuse. So the problem that we have in Nigeria, the legislation arm and the jurisdiction arm should be checked. Proper checking, that is check and balances.
Okay, sir. Including you, sir. if we have problems with economic policies in Nigeria, and people who should be engineers of policies are not standing up to the responsibilities to educate the government on how to implement a policy that will work in an economy, there is a problem. I remember there was a time, probably when there was this Finance Act last year, government reduced what they call duty on importation of automobiles. A few weeks later, Naira was devalued. The impact of that at that time was that we want people to bring more automobiles so that it can ease up the problem of transportation. But when you devalue the currency, it brings whatever you need to buy that time, it takes high. Right now, the last speaker spoke about this issue of subsidy removal. We all agree that subsidy should be removed. In 2012, subsidy was removed. Everybody went to the streets, including Buhari himself, protesting that there shouldn't be anything like subsidy removal. So when he came in 2015, he removed the subsidy partially, and we agreed. But what they saved from the subsidy they removed in 2015, by now we are not seeing anything, and nobody is asking any questions. Now they are coming with the policy that, okay, in 2022 they will remove subsidy. If they remove subsidy totally, they will now replace it with transport fare to 40 million people, which will give you about 2.4 trillion, to replace a policy that is affecting the lives of 200 million Nigerians, where you spend about just 3 trillion naira. And yet, we are seated. I have not heard anyone from economic world from Nigeria speaking up to these people. So we are part of the problem. So when you want to take problem of Nigeria out, don't take the government out. Chicken up.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Please, I want you to please allow me to finish. I will still have, I told you, the next agenda is going to be an interactive. You can raise question or have to question the people that present with us. Please let's allow him to finish, because I always time there. And you want me to stop him? I time there. Please let him finish. James cannot come on that one. Thank you very much.
Yes. It is about having the ability to look at a challenge, identify the opportunities, and creating solutions. It is about what? Being innovative. If you look at when cowbell first came into Nigeria, PIPME knocked them off. They said no. They ignored them. They said they can never sell. And PIPME, I'm talking about creating jobs and being innovative. The first thing as an entrepreneur you need to do is, what are the problems of these people? What did they need? The first thing Cowbell did was to go into industries. They discovered that it was very difficult for you to buy a tin milk and put inside your what? Pocket. Two, as then, when you buy a tin milk, you may not be able to finish it off. The next thing you do what? You tear the paper and cover it, even with your feet. And if there's no light, you now put it inside water and keep it for the next day. That was the research Cowbell made. And today, they are all over. It was from there people bought the idea of what? Cowbell. It was from there, Close Up and the rest bought over. You need to be what?